Graylog elevates enterprise-level cybersecurity through its comprehensive SIM, centralized log management, and API security solutions. Built on the Graylog platform, Graylog Security combines SIM, security analytics, threat detection, and incident response capabilities. Unlike traditional SIMs, which offer complex and costly setups, Graylog Security simplifies security and operational challenges with an optimal blend of licensing, people, and infrastructure costs. To see a demo, visit securityweekly.com/Graylog. Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. Now for part 2 of the Enterprise Security Weekly news. Again, you can check out securityweekly.com/ESW388 if you want to follow along as we go through the news and find some links to some of the articles that we will be discussing. Again, I've got Katie and Eamon with me, and we're about to close out the year for Enterprise Security Weekly.
Happy almost New Year.
Yeah.
I had to write 2025 for the first time today. We signed a contract and I screwed it up already. I just wrote 2024, January 2024.
Yeah. I keep doing it for about 6 months, at least 3 months. Yeah.
Half the year.
Yeah. Maybe 3.
So we do, as is tradition for this time of year, we do have some forward-looking articles, some predictions articles. Actually, I feel like I haven't seen as much as I normally do. Maybe we're just, we're kind of sick of that. And with AI, like all bets are off anyway. Like, what prediction could you make that could be possibly accurate? Like after
you could use AI to write your predictions about AI.
Oh boy.
I wonder how many of these predictions are. Did you use AI to write your predictions, Katie?
No, because every time I test it out, I look at it and I go, that's so boring. I can't. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if 2 people follow me or 2 million people follow me at this point, but anybody who has followed me for more than 5 seconds knows I have a style.
Yeah.
And AI strips all of it out. And I've even tried feeding AI my
your
articles.
Work? Oh, wow.
And it just does. It's so boring.
Yeah. That's something I've found with AI is you cannot get it to be like controversial or like it has this kind of milk toast effect that just kind of bleh everything,
There's like zero snarkiness factor. It doesn't get, I mean, this is why it's not technically AI, but let's not get into that because I could go on all night. It has no nuance. And it can't detect that nuance because I will sometimes put something in just to start generating ideas and I'll say, okay, write it snarkier or write it more sarcastic. And it comes out and I'm like, you got nothing.
Yeah.
You got nothing. So, yeah. I will use it to like spark ideas, generate ideas, get me thinking about certain topics, just the way 5 years ago when I was writing, I would Google things and look at other articles just to start taking in inputs from all over the place. And then I'd back away and then I'd go write my own thing. So now I just have to go to one central place to do it. But I don't see myself, unless it gets a bazillion times better, ever using this in my day job for content creation.
I found the initial prompt, if I am able to catch it initially and say, assume you are a snarky comedian or assume like whatever, I found it to be helpful. And then along those lines, I wonder if Grok is the answer to the
to something with less
completely unfiltered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe I haven't tried that. That's interesting. I wonder. Yeah, the filter is trying to keep it out of trouble, or maybe making it too boring. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's like that. There's an episode of Friends where I never really watched Friends, so I don't remember anybody's names. But Phoebe maybe like had a boyfriend, but he was an alcoholic, and he was a lot of fun. And they finally get him sober,
Bobby.
and he's just no fun anymore.
Yes,
so I wonder
Bobby.
if
he was actually Monica's boyfriend.
Monica. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe AI just needs to do some shots. I don't know.
Maybe that's next year. Maybe that's a prediction next year. More realistic AI.
All right. I want to start out with story, and I do have a method to this madness, to this order. Number four, What Sucks in Security, was a very fun read that and a very useful read, I think. The whole thing is very long, so we're just going to focus on kind of the TLDR that she's got up in the top here. This is from Maya Kaczorowski. Kazarowski. I'm not
I
sure
would
how
say
to say.
Kajarowski, but I could
There
be
you
wrong.
go. That sounds better than what I said. Um, and this is so she interviewed 57 security leaders to understand their biggest pain points, and she asked them what sucks in security. And this is I feel like we should have more of this, but I like how casual it was. And I feel like surveys where we ask less questions tend to be a little bit better, a little bit more honest. There's no question fatigue on the part of the respondent, and three top security issues pop up. So the top technology pain points were ticket-based and inconsistent access management, disparate vulnerability prioritization and remediation workflows. And Katie's probably seeing part of why I started with this before, rather than starting with her piece, and obtaining and using SaaS logs. So I would not have been able to predict this. I found this very interesting.
To me, it's very interesting and useful. But I guess not hugely surprising. We've had problems with access management forever. Let's face it, without bad access management, the attackers would not be successful, and they are all the time. When it comes to vulnerabilities, just like we were talking about in the last segment, prioritization is not a one size fits all. You can't have generic prioritization. You have to have context. You have to look at reachability, exploitability, potential business impact, and those things are hard to get right when you're looking beyond your own organization. Companies can do it. My company does it, and I think we do it pretty well. But in every situation, there are decisions, human decisions, that have to be made about prioritization, because things like, what else do we have to do? How many people do we have to do it? Oh, it's December 19th and everybody's gone on December 20th. I mean, all of these factors come into play. And then on top of that, we have tools that are just spitting data at us. And a
Yeah.
lot of the tools vendors think, hey, if I give them more, I'm better. And that's
Yeah.
not the case at all. It's relevancy. And so this is, it was nice to see. Hugely shocking? No, but also it definitely goes back to a little bit of the foundational stuff, right? Like, you
Yeah.
got to know what you have, you got to be able to see into it, and then once you see into it, you have to be able to understand what the heck is going on before you can even triage and respond to it.
Yeah, the majority of with Ian's research, the majority of the advisory calls that I take are vulnerability management, and there's a lot of them, and they're absolutely having this problem. But I thought it was just, I assumed it was a bias because that's one of the things that I specialize in. So when somebody has a vuln management question, they tend to route it to me and say, "Hey, would you like to take this call?" Um, but yeah, I wonder if it's if that's something that everybody's seeing then. But yeah, there's a word cloud, and if you zoom way out in that word cloud, there are only four things you can read. You can read vuln management is the biggest thing by far. IAM, identity and access management, is the second largest, and then secret management and group management are the even for the third largest. So yeah, I would not have guessed. Asking a bunch of CISOs, and this ranged from like 30-person startups to quarter million employee multinationals. That she surveyed here. So I would not have predicted this. Like you said, not surprising, but certainly, well, it's surprising to me that these are the top three. That they're somewhere near the top wouldn't have surprised me, but that these are the three top ones does surprise me a little bit. There's nothing about threat, ransomware, like any of that stuff in here. It is just all this foundational boring stuff, right?
Hey, we like boring. I was told today I was boring, so that's
Oh,
okay. Um,
damn.
well, because I've been shouting foundational stuff and honesty in vendor marketing, and people don't like that. I had a point. Yes. Oh, survey design. Survey design matters a lot. And I
Yeah.
don't know the person who conducted this study, and I 100% will not say there was a problem with the survey design because I don't know. However, if the survey design was perhaps a little bit leading, that could have had something to do with it. Again, I don't know. This person could be the best survey instrument designer in the world, but you do have to wonder until you see the questions behind the survey. You can't really tell.
Yeah, I'm not sure like I said, this is labeled as a 22-minute read, so there's a lot of stuff here.
There's a lot of stuff.
I don't know if she shares the questions. It looks like she might. She links to some stuff from Data Wrapper. I don't know. We'll have to look into it a little bit more, but there's still a lot of good information in here. I think it's definitely worth a look.
Right.
Um,
Regardless of the survey design or the outcome, it is interesting to read because whether they were led to it or not, these people, like even if I was led to something that I thought, what are you crazy? Like I wouldn't, my most pressing problem today is oh gosh, I don't even know, something that's really not a problem. But whatever it was that wasn't really a problem, I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't say, oh yeah, you're right, if it wasn't an actual problem in the 12 months. So at some level, these things that are surfacing, regardless of the questions, did resonate.
so speaking of surfacing, I think you have some predictions for AppSec in 2025.
I
Let's talk about
do,
Europe.
and there was very little in the way of survey design because there was no survey on this. And full disclosure, I work for an AppSec vendor, and I drink their Kool-Aid. Now I work for a vendor that I like, so that's okay. We all work for companies, and hopefully we like them. But in this piece, it's a little more
I work for myself. I hope so.
right?
Do you like
Say,
yourself, Adrian?
Most
you
days.
too, Amen. So, in the past, I've done much snarkier, much more sarcastic pieces. I've gone out to my security community and said, all right, what's the most absurd prediction for the year? So this one isn't quite as fun and lighthearted, but it does touch on some things that are that the thing with predictions is if they're good predictions and it's security, you're probably going to go, yeah, of course. In my mind, everything has always rolled up to risk in security. No matter what you do, it rolls up to risk. What is your risk? What can you accept? Can you find any kind of risk mitigation? So I talk about things like attack surface management. So that's been sort of a buzz term, but I think if vendors aren't including that in their products and end users aren't at least thinking about it, you're totally missing the big picture. Is attack surface management now CTEM, continuous threat exposure management, or proactive security is touted by Forrester? I don't know, pick your term, but you really have to be thinking more holistically. And whether that's AppSec or network or cloud or whatever security, I feel like I can't get a lot of pushback on that. The second one, we talk about development practices gaining new urgency. Now, I want to be clear, you have to read pretty closely. This is a little clickbait because I don't believe in DevSecOps. And I don't believe that security is ever going to be fully successful at inserting themselves in development. But we have to be a little bit better with our tools, with our processes, with our communication and our collaboration. I talk a little bit about regulations. At least in the US, we're in for a wild ride. That's all I'm going to say about that. AI and ML, you had to go there a little bit. I just learned about a new company yesterday, and I thought, oh God, this is an AI ops company. Then I looked at their tech a little, and I thought, okay, still not true AI, but okay, we're speeding up the pace. And then last but not least, it's more of a hope than a prediction, and it's about
Yeah. I,
collaboration.
I like doing hopes instead of predictions myself. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it,
I like
and
it.
it actually ties into your first story, the honest conversation about the state of cybersecurity. It is a hope that will become a little bit of the kindler, gentler industry that starts to actually meld a little bit more.
Yeah. Good stuff there, Katie. Good read there for sure. And since you mentioned it, this might be the last one that we have time for here. Eamon, did you have a chance to read this first item, the Ross Hollyluk's "Let's Have an Honest Conversation"?
I did not. I did not get a chance to read it.
It's another long one. It took me a little while to get through this, and I'm looking for my comment. Yeah, there's my comment. I actually commented on the Substack here. Um, but yeah, kind of my point here. He goes through a lot of stuff. Like just as an example, most security practitioners are just doing their jobs. Which is kind of a reminder that those of us here in this podcast, those of you listening to this podcast, you're all part of a bubble. There's a large chunk of the cybersecurity workforce that will never go to a con, not even a B-sides. They don't do any security stuff outside of work. Back in 2015, I actually pulled some numbers on this. I did some analysis of how much of the industry was community, engaged in the community in some way. It was something like 8%.
Really?
The industry's changed a lot in the last 10 years since I did that analysis. But yeah, I would be surprised if more than 20% of those that work in cybersecurity participate at all in community stuff, listen to podcasts, go to conferences. That was an interesting reminder there. And that's just one of many things that he jumps into. That's in a section called 3 Obvious Facts Worth Reminding Ourselves About, where the other one is most companies are not tech companies. And the third one is most people outside of security don't care about security and won't. So yeah, kind of a reality check, right? An honest, let's be honest with ourselves kind of right up here.
I love it. Yeah, I just skimmed the whole thing right now. The parts that resonated with me is most people outside of security don't care about security. And you're kind of reminded that as a fractional CISO sometimes, like you're just brought in to do like this one thing. And, or like when you talk to a company and you're like, compliance is not security. And they're like, yeah, but we just need this compliance. You're like, can we just like get this checkbox done?
Well, and he says in here, for some companies, compliance is security. You know what?
Yeah. It's a gateway drug. I used to be against it, but like now sometimes I have to like use a compliance stick. Yeah. If I say it's security or best practice, don't ever use best practices in a startup. Oh, they hate that term. But
and it's something I think we're kind of a little bit brainwashed on is I think a good percentage of folks, especially those of us inside the bubble, if you ask them to kind of categorize like what a business should be worried about, I think a lot of us would put security somewhere in like the top 5. And I think in reality, if you ask most companies, the people leading these companies, to make that same list, particularly because most companies are not tech companies, I don't even think we make the top 10 in a lot of those.
Well, think about it. When you go to parties and, all the holiday parties are now in full bloom, and people say, oh, what do you do? And you go and say, I'm a fractional CISO. they look at you funny.
Yeah.
Or you say, I'm a security researcher. They go, huh?
Well, we don't say that. We say we're in cybersecurity,
I
right?
Well,
just say I'm in
yes.
cyber. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I do. I say I work in cybersecurity. They go, wow, that's interesting. And it's like you're kind of a, bear in the zoo. Even if you just say, wow, I work in cybersecurity, they look at you and they go, that's interesting. And I'm like, oh, you don't sit at my desk all day.
Yeah.
It's so
I,
outside of people's day to day.
yeah. And I mean, even though it does show up in the news a lot, it's still that's almost made it worse, right? Because now it's just a thing that happens, a normal thing that happens. Like if somebody does some shoplifting, you don't expect it to make the news. And now if somebody gets breached, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it
Well,
doesn't even show up.
I guess back to your point where it says, is it in the top 10? I have a little bit of a counter argument. I think it is still in the top 10. I think the news in the past several years has helped our jobs like get out more to the forefront. So it makes our case easier, like to say, like security matters. People still, even with the plethora of information out there and even AI, people still don't know what to do. So our jobs are still necessary because we kind of can help guide people. Um,
Yeah. I do
they,
think we lie a bit to ourselves, though, in terms of how important we
we
think it
do
is
drink
to
the,
other people.
it is
Well,
humbling
And once you tell
sometimes.
somebody it's cybersecurity, like they'll lie to you a little bit too.
of
They'll tell you it's
course,
more important to them than it actually is.
of course we lie to ourselves. We work in this industry just like doctors lie to themselves about how much people care about their health, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe they lament it more because it's an older profession and they're like, oh
How
my
often do
God,
you
just
how often do you have alcoholic drinks? A lot of people have lied about that to their doctors,
right.
right?
Or how many times do you go to the gym? Lie, 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 lie,
Yeah.
lie. Um, so of course we lie. And if you
Mhm.
do it all day, every day, and if you are part of this silly echo
We're
chamber
biased.
that also reads books and goes to conferences and does podcasts, it's worse because who wants to be like, wow, I wasted 12 hours of my day reading about, yeah, nobody wants to do that. So there's nothing wrong with that. You just also have to have, it's a little white devil on your shoulder and the dark devil on your other shoulder. You have to have the good devil and the bad devil going, all right, this is good because I want my job, I like my job, I like the industry. And then the little grumpy old figure saying, nobody else cares, nobody else cares. So just balance them out. That's all.
I can't remember if I mentioned this, but I was at the conference called SC. They just shorten it to SC, but short for supercomputing. Because my partner is in HPC, and this is the world's largest HPC conference. It moves around every year. It was in Atlanta this year, and so I had this experience. Somebody at supercomputing at SC asked me what I do, and when I said cybersecurity, her just instant gut response was "ew," because in her world, it's still very, very much is the department of no. Like there are a lot of very traditional, old school. You're gonna have to VDI into this and VPN into that, and they're layered on top of each other, and there's jump boxes, and you can't copy and paste between environments, and it's just there's a lot of that still going on in that space, because a lot of it's you're dealing with very sensitive data and very large amounts of it. So and
I don't
they're
know.
not employees, they're researchers, so it's like a different relationship.
Yeah.
It's not revenue producing, it's grant funded. So interesting space. Um, which is a goal of mine in 2025. And I think this is where we maybe wrap here with some thoughts about next year is to go to more non cybersecurity conferences, and maybe try and talk about security at those conferences, maybe submit to some CFPs. I've been wanting to go to like a HIMSS for a long time now, which is the healthcare industry's big like RSA level conference. Love to hear from our audience, like what conferences I should go to. But I think it would be interesting to have cybersecurity conferences with non-cybersecurity people at a conference.
Well, when
Yeah.
I worked at Misty, I got to go to audit conferences. I know it's not the same, night and
Yeah.
day, but boy, was that
It's adjacent,
illuminating.
but it is different, right?
Was it ever illuminating to see how
Mm-hmm.
internal and IT auditors viewed security?
Yeah.
Oh,
Hmm.
interesting.
So how about you guys? What are you looking forward to in 2025? Anything you want to share before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I think the job market is going to warm up again. I think that's going to happen. I'm seeing more things opening up at all levels. But this the CISO level, that kind of stuff. I don't think pay. I think pay is going to take a while along the job market size. Pay is going to take a while to come back to, um, 2021, 22 levels. So that might be a thing. And then maybe we'll see a couple IPOs. I don't know. Definitely a lot more of the mergers and acquisitions, because there's still a lot of companies hurting
Yeah.
and that haven't gotten their next round of funding, and so they're gonna have to decide whether to close or sell on the cheap. And a lot more drama uh, at the federal cybersecurity level. Just to say that.
Because of regulations, like what's the reason for that? Do you think?
Well, let's see. So Jen is leaving, right? And just
Oh yeah,
yeah, just personnel changes and stuff. So I'm curious,
yeah.
how the cybersecurity community is going to react
Leadership change at the highest level is what you're talking
at the
about.
federal level. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we might see some regulation rollbacks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of nervous predictions going on. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to see. Like TikTok, does Trump find some way to reverse that? Because it happens the day before he's inaugurated.
I saw
So,
that January
yeah.
19th.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that was intentional, right?
Yeah.
Because it was, something the Biden, folks did. So I guess it made sense to them to, enact it on the very last day. But yeah, that's a month away. That's
Yes.
today's 19th that we're recording that. January 19th
Yeah.
is now a month away. Yeah. Any predictions? Anything you're excited about, Katie? Or did your article
Well, my
do that for
article
you?
sort of wraps up what I'm thinking about, at least in my head. But on a non-security level, I'm very, very much looking forward to this next week of baking, getting out of security and just getting in
So
my
much.
kitchen.
Yeah. I can't wait to not come into my studio for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, gonna spend my next week and a half baking and cleaning my house and all the things
Yes.
I can't do
The house is
when
a
I'm
mess.
sitting at
Yeah.
my desk, and then I walk into my kitchen and I'm like, oh God, this needs cleaning and that needs cleaning and the other thing. So I'm gonna do all the boring stuff and
Yeah.
start the year fresh.
Yeah, we're renovating a bathroom. We're redoing several rooms in the house, and the kids are coming up. So my partner's kids are going to be living with us for like the next 6 months. So there's so much going on. We're flying down there to drive them up tomorrow. So
Nice.
yeah, and there's so much I want to get done before we leave tomorrow. So
Good luck.
yeah, thank you.
Wow.
So
I almost have like
looking
the
forward to.
opposite. I have the opposite of your
Oh yeah,
nothing, no travel, nobody's coming over, no kids are going to be around.
that
I
sounds
might just
relaxing.
like paint a room randomly. Like, I don't know.
Sure.
That's
Why
Definitely a
not?
lot of cleaning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like all that, like every time I walk by and then I'm like, oh, I have to get back into my desk and do this. Ah, I have to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a ball of cat fur under the armoire. Ah, I got to get that later. It's all going to get gotten.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I hope everybody listening to this is planning to have a nice, relaxing break. This will be the last podcast we do in 2024. We're not doing any vault episodes or anything like that for the next couple of weeks because we figure people probably aren't going to be around to listen to it. So you get a break from the podcast as well. Hopefully that encourages you to take some time off of work and think about other stuff. And we will see you again in January. So thanks to everybody who's listened to us this year. We'll see you in 2025.
Right. Happy New Year.